Let's talk about how to graph real quick, and that way you can do this for this assignment. This is pretty much the same way for every graph. You'll need a spreadsheet like this, and you'll need a group of cells to put information in. And so in this case, we have distance information, the time, and then we also have the speed. So we can graph any one or all three of those things, just depending on what we want to see. So let's take a look at our data table, and we're going to add some data. So let's just go 0. You have to look at the data table provided in the assignment in order to do this, or you have to actually have real data if this is just a general graph that you're doing. So I'm going to use some of this data. I'm not going to add all of it. This is from the rocket sled assignment. And then we also have time, and time is our constant here. Like, time doesn't really change. This is time in seconds, so I should probably add that as a label, right? Time in seconds, cool. And then we're going to input the data from the experiment, and then during that time we also have measured speed. Let's say it's 22 feet per second, and so I should add that as well because it could be in miles per hour or meters per second or feet per 10 minutes, right? We have to have a unit in order to clarify exactly what we're talking about. We need that for distance as well. The data that's given to us is going to be in feet, and once we have data inputted, we have just got to have numbers in the cells. That's the only thing you can add. You can't have 0 feet in a cell. You can't have 25 feet in a cell. Feet should be labeled in the top, and then we're graphing numbers. We have to just graph the numbers. So here's the thing. You need to highlight all the data that you want to graph. And in this case, I am going to just graph the speed and time. That's all I want to graph. And so I need to highlight this data. You can highlight data by clicking on one corner of the data that you want to use. So I'm clicking on the time second cell here, and I'm going to hold the shift button down and click on the opposite corner, and that'll highlight all of the data that I want to use for our graph. Okay, so then I'm going to go to the word insert at the top and insert a graph. There is also a chart icon that says insert chart on your toolbar. If that toolbar is not showing up, you can always go to the word insert and pick a chart. The chart will read what is given to you in the data, or given to it in the data, and it will make a graph representing that data. And so you see that speed does not change in our data. It stays at a constant 22 feet per second over the 3.5 seconds of time. And so we just see a solid line as the velocity or the speed in which that cart did not change. So you can take this information and you can then paste it, copy and paste it into your document. You can take a screenshot of it, copy and paste that, or you can add a link to this whole spreadsheet. If you don't like the way that looks and you want to graph something else, that's okay too. We can take time and distance, for instance, and graph that. See what happens to the distance the cart travels over time. Highlight that data, insert that chart, and you'll see a different graph here. So as time goes on, more distance has been traveled. So I don't like the way this is particularly set up, with time being on the y-axis and distance being on the x-axis. The reason is because time is constant. It's always the same. It keeps going, and so that should really be on the x-axis. And there is ways to modify that. We could have put time in a different location. We could have had time being the first column and distance be the second one. We can also invert that in the edit chart function located here.